asking, am I in love with God? If it is the mind, then it's irrelevant, it's not important.
Yeah. It is the mind only that is asking. Now what has happened is the mind has to be harnessed in such a way that it stops asking. In a nutshell, he has given us, if at all you call it his philosophy or what he says, the truth, it is not his philosophy, because Baba said to a philosopher, when philosophers came around him, they started giving him the description of their own schools, you see, of philosophy. And after patiently hearing them and all that, he said to them, well, my philosophy, definition of philosophy is simple thing made difficult is philosophy. So what he has said about the truth is, mind working is man. Mind working slow is God absorbed. Mind working fast is mad. Mind stopped is God. So this is how it is. It is the play of the mind. So what has to be done is not to think that I am loving. Not to think that... mind will make you think that. Mind will make you feel that also. But now there should be we have to create a balance between the mind and the heart. Mind at rest, heart at work. Heart at rest, mind at work. So we have to create a balance. And when we have the perfect balance, well, everything is over. The game is lost by us and he has won. So when you say that, well, I must love him, I must obey him, it's all because of the mind. It is the mind that has been harnessed by his self, you see. Pelu letter says, so there is that letter on which I wrote to Ghaffari. I will get you, what you have said now, one day somebody asked me about it. I will read out that letter. It explains to us very well. Yes.
You said there has to be a blending, balancing between the mind and the heart, but isn't the heart part of the mind?
It is, but then it is of the mental sphere. Baba says that there are two sectors, you see, in the mental sphere. It is, one is the mind and the other is the feeling. So feelings, sometimes the mind means the thoughts and the feelings. So sometimes the thoughts supersede the feelings, and sometimes the feelings supersede the mind, the thoughts. Yeah. And that's how we have to establish a balance between thinking and feeling. That's how it is. It is of the same domain, no doubt about it. But because it is that, because of the mental sphere, having these two sectors there, called the thought and the feeling sectors, that's why all this game is being played because of it.
And is it permitted for us to feel?
Oh yes. Yeah, we should feel, we should develop, you see, that the thoughts, how will we be able to feel unless and until we have to stir up our feelings, you see. We must feel, we must...
in the moment that I say I want to feel love for God, it may be the ego that plays the trick on us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I may be in complete abstract illusion.
Sure. That is the thing, that's the trick that is being played. So time and again we have to come back, you see, and try to, well, relate ourselves to him for that. The most important thing is that whether you are feeling love for him, whether you are thinking of loving him or what, all this is insignificant. What is needed is to be absolutely his, totally his. The secret of spirituality, secret of advancement is effacement. What happens is that in spite of having been said that the secret of spiritual advancement is effacement, we leave aside the effacement factor and try to advance ourselves. And we feel that, well, we are very advanced, we are feeling his love for him, we are all the time remembering him. We always, well, I'm becoming more and more straight, I'm becoming really good, you see. Or it's all play of ego. Yeah, it is that. It is that mind, you see. It is the same ego that has been overcast by our impressions, you see. It is an impression one.
Pardon, I have to add.
Pardon?
Good figure. Francis approves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pardon, I have to add that Eruch is dealing a complete subject with some of the incidents to follow. So it would be proper if he completes the subject in his own way, and we put questions afterwards when he completes the subject fully well, so that there may be no interruptions, no chain of thoughts. It is just my suggestion, if you kindly agree.
Before we start, you see, we'll do this, Shaligramji, just to complete the chapter. Who will read out? Lee, you are reading it out. Can you read out properly?
Read properly.
And loudly?
Properly
And loudly.
1 minute late.
You see, this has been a certain professor in Iran who wrote to me a letter. Time and again he would write, he is a lover of Baba and he wants to come closer and closer to him, and he says that, well, how is it possible for us to advance and feel our love for him and his love for us? Is it possible for us to do that? What is your say in the matter? So at that time, whatever I felt it, I wrote down to him. It's a letter that I had written, it's a copy of the letter. Yes, please.
Stated 7/12/77. My dear Mendi, your sweet letter of November 23rd touched my heart deeply. I am grateful to beloved Baba for giving us such hearts as yours to warm our hearts with the beauty of his love that he has poured into yours. By now hundreds of people have asked me, how do I believe Baba is God? And your asking us the same question is nothing surprising. My simple answer is, I believe Baba is God, because he is God. But you have also asked me, how do I believe him to be God? Well, it took my mind to accept him as God more than 40 years, and the last 30 years were spent almost at his feet, making my mind hold on to his Dhamma, sometimes with both hands. Although my mind was bombarded constantly with and by his statements, I am God in human form, I am the Ancient One, I am the God-Man, I am the highest of the high, I am infinite consciousness, I am infinite in internal existence, I am infinite power, knowledge, bliss, I am lowest of the low and highest of the high, I am, in spite of it all, and in spite of his overwhelming physical presence of mind, my stubborn and stupid mind interrogated within me, is he that? Such is mind, which is also his creation, to keep going his game of hide and seek. It is he who hides, and it is he who seeks, and eventually sought and found. He, as Mendi, is the seeker and the disciple and the lover, and is in the search of the beloved. He remains hidden behind Mendi, or in other words, he himself wears the veil of Mendi and plays the divine game of hide and seek. When he sheds the veil, Mendi, he reveals himself to himself and proclaims himself, I am God. So, my dear Mendi, as long as he continues to identify himself as Mendi, you, as Mendi, stand no chance of experiencing beloved Baba's Godhood. Hence, beloved Baba exhorted us saying, God is infinite in eternal existence, and he is never lost. Therefore God cannot be found. How ridiculous it is to find something or someone that is never lost. So stop trying to find God. He can never be found, for he is never lost. What indeed is needed is to lose yourself, and God continues to remain immanent. Beloved Baba has comforted us so often by wanting us to be determined to be his. Once we remain determined to be his and completely depend and rely on his grace and compassion, he takes over from us the process of unveiling himself. So be ever determined to be his. Be childlike and depend upon his compassion and grace entirely, and allow him to wind up his game of hide and seek within you. You ask me whether I have the experience of his godhood. My answer is that I do not have this experience. But I believe in his godhood, and his being the Ancient One. Best for you is that you visit us here often, and allow us the pleasure of your company, so that by your questioning us, we will remain all the more in his company. Yours, Eruch. P.S.
Thank you. So this is how the game is. It is he who is the one, you see. We are nobody. Not even, as Baba says, that you are not even rag dolls. He would always say this, you see. See this? This is substance. And what is this? Do you give any significance to this? The shadow that is there? You are not even this shadow-like thing, you see. But whatever it is, you find yourself, you see, acting, behaving and all because of the substance that is there, because of this existence, it is there. You see. As soon as this blemish is all over, it's nothing but myself. That's how he would tell us. Okay, now what do you want? You want the incidents in our life? Yes. In my life?
Yes.
Okay. You know, the thing is that when I had come here in the beginning, I was called by Baba. I was a college student and I came to Baba because he called me, and him having called me in a way that, well, you leave everything and come to me. That's all. That was the interview. Will it be possible? And I said, by your grace it is possible. Anything is possible. This is very good, fine, good. I'm very happy. That was the end of the interview. And he told me to come on 1st August 1938, and I came. But before I left the room, he says, is it possible for the whole family, your parents and your sisters and your brother to come? I said, by your grace, anything is possible. So, well, we came. In short, we came. I was brought up, you see, as a straight person, and when I came to him, well, I prided myself in always speaking the truth. And I felt that, well, I am a straight person, I always speak the truth, I behave myself very well, and so forth. Because my era was quite different from the modern age now. I'm talking about 60 years ago, 50 years ago. So at that time, naturally, children were supposed to be under the guidance of their elders, and the elders put us on a straight path on their own. We were not given the choice to be on our own path. It was the path that they chalked out for us. And that's how I was trained to speak the truth always, to be loving and kind and generous, never express anger, and so forth and so on. And that's how I was brought up, and I was happy about it, and everything was fine. And when I came to him, well, for first few months it was fine. It was smooth sailing and all that. But living with the Mandali over here in company of so many others who were before me here, naturally conflicts start, you see, because rubbing shoulders is creating heat, you know. So occasions would arise. So I said, no, Baba, he said this, and that's why it was done like this. And the man would be embarrassed, because I prided myself in speaking the truth. I spoke the truth. And Baba says, so that's the thing, and there would be a lot of friction, you see. Verbal exchanges would be there, and Baba would enjoy the scene, you know, at our cost. And then it went on like that. Years passed by, and after about 3 or 4 years, I believe, one day there was an opportunity for me to be by his side, and he called me close to him, and he said to me, I am very happy that you always speak the truth. And immediately my mind felt very elated, you know. Yes, Baba, I was taught from my childhood to speak the truth always. Fine, I'm well pleased with you. And my mind was very happy, you know. I felt very nice. I felt myself great, you see, that I am a person who speaks always the truth. Then with a meaningful look and glint in his eye, he says, you see, I'm happy that you speak the truth, but you should know that when truth is spoken, it is always helpful to others. It is always elevating for others. It should be of help to others. I said, yes, Baba. Because I would always want people to be helped, and I lived straight life and felt that I can help physically and this and that. So I thought that way. So he says, yeah, but whenever you speak the truth, you should be very mindful that the other person doesn't feel the hurt about it. They don't feel that they are being crushed or they are let down Otherwise, truth loses its charm. Truth should be spoken in such a way that, well, it uplifts somebody, it helps somebody, it makes one feel great than what he is when you speak the truth. So speak the truth in such a way that it is always uplifting to the other. I said, yes, Baba. But I didn't understand. So he gives me in his own way. I was a child and I am still a child of his. So he gives me a figure about it, a story about it. So he says, you see, at the time of Muhammad, when I was Muhammad, the Prophet, after I passed away, my close one, whose name was Ali, who was very dear to me, he was, well, feeling himself lonely without my physical presence. At that time, there were prayer halls being created by me. I had given them the prayers, as I have given the prayers to you all. So, he was sitting there in front of the prayer hall one day, and the door was shut. And he was sitting on a bench on one side of the door. And he was sitting and thinking about me. And all of a sudden, there comes running on the road, seeing Ali in a great anxiety and suspense and terror. He comes and says, Ali, Ali, save me, save me. So Ali looked at him and says, get inside this. So he opened the door and he got inside and he shut the door back of the prayer hall where he was sitting outside. And saying this, Ali properly shut the door and took his seat on the other side of the door. After 3 minutes, there came a crowd rushing, you see, who was chasing this culprit. Seeing Ali, he says, oh, instead of going on a wild chase, you see, goose chase, they say, Ali, have you noticed a person here, a culprit, a criminal, who passed by? Did you see him running here? He says, no, not since I am sitting here. Oh, then it's all right. So they changed the direction, they went away, thinking that that man had not passed from here. See how Ali did not speak untruth, he spoke the truth. Was it a white lie or a brown lie? What is it? Victor, listen. So Baba says, this is how you should speak the truth, so that it helps somebody. What happened to that man, that criminal, was he got totally transformed gradually after this episode, you see. What happened was that he saved this criminal from being maltreated, manhandled, even killed by those people who were furious. He was a criminal, no doubt. But this is how you should be of help to others while speaking the truth. In many different ways, speak the truth in such a way that take it upon yourself first of all, because you are not perfect. So include yourself while letting them the home truths, giving home truths to them, or knowing that, well, such a person should not have behaved it. So if you want to say it out, if circumstances are such, take it upon yourself. You see, Baba wants us to be this, and you know how difficult it is for me. I am also not of that type. And the thing is that take it upon yourself, involve yourself without letting the other person feel that I am pinpointing him down. That's how he told me that day, one of the days. That was one of the episodes. Then I came to realize, what he meant was, because there was a lot of heart burning amongst the elders here in the Mandali, and whenever I spoke truth, I felt myself so elated about it that I spoke the truth. So from that time, I got subdued, you see. And I wouldn't just throw words out, say, no, you're wrong. This is not what you had said. I would just keep quiet at the time. And after the episode is over, and we would discuss the matter with other people, the one who had spoken out of tune, I would say, but look, what I had heard was this. I may be wrong, but this is how I had heard, you see. So that's how we came closer and closer. My relationship with the Mandali was closest because of my change of attitude. In the beginning, I was formidable because I spoke out the truth which hurt them, and which lost the charm of the truth. And when the charm was derived out of it, Then I came closer, they came close to me, and it was wonderful. So this I learned from him. Another episode was when it so happened that in the 1939, when this blue bus that you see over here, he went out on tour in this blue bus in 39, late 39, I think. Was it 39?
40, 39, 40.
I think 39. 39. November or December, something, October. So the bus had come. It was its maiden ride. It was parked on Mehrabad Hill. The body was created by Sarosh Motor Works and all that sort of thing. New bus. The next morning, early morning, Baba and the women and Kaka Baria were to leave on a tour. I had come there. In 38 August I came. This is just not even a year now. A year, little more than a year. So I'm sitting there one night. It so happened that on the eve of the night of the departure, that Baba was with us in the hall there at Mehrabad, which is now not the same Mehrabad, the old Mehrabad. So all of a sudden there comes a man who was a night watchman, and he comes down the hill, running, and he's there, and says, Baba says, what's the matter? He was the night watchman on the hill. So he said, Kaka Baria fell down from the bus and is unconscious from the top of the bus. He was packing the luggage. And Baba expressed concern. He says, all men over here, nobody there to help him? Nobody is there to help him? And as if there was none there, he looked at me directly and says, what are you doing? Because I was very healthy, and strong. He says, what are you doing sitting over here? Don't you know that tomorrow we have to go out on a tour? And could you not go and help him? So I didn't know anything about it. So don't you know that, aren't you coming on a tour tomorrow with me? He says, nobody has told me. I know nothing about it. So don't you want to come? So I said, well, Baba, I'm indifferent. If you take me, it's well and good. If you don't take me, it's well and good. Baba says, you are indifferent. You are so presumptuous that you remain indifferent. You don't want to be with me. See, that's how it was. He snubbed me for my indifference. He didn't want us to be indifferent. He wanted us to be always involved in all activities of Baba. Otherwise, I would feel myself, you see, it's a feigned modesty, a feigned humility, Well, if it takes, I will go. If it takes, but our hearts should just all the time would want to be with him, want to be involved in his activities. I learned then. That was one of the examples that I felt, that I must always be longing to be by his side, all the time treading behind him. So he says, go, tomorrow you have to come. You go and help Kaka there, see what has happened. Tomorrow you should be with us. I said, all right, Baba. And that's how, without packing and without luggage, I went out on a long tour of many months with him. Next morning, because there was no room for my luggage. So that's how it was. That lesson I learned. Then another very funny thing happened was, during that time, during that period I recall now, is my duty was such in the beginning that as I left home and the world, I came to him. He says, all that you have to do is to be seated on the veranda of Mehrabad. You know that Mehrabad veranda. And from there one can see the hill. As soon as you see me coming down the hill, you run to me and receive me. And when I am at Lower Mehrabad, you bring me down. And when I am at Lower Mehrabad, you be with me. And then when it is time for me to go up, you give me a send-off, take me up there and there. I had to hold the umbrella on his head because he didn't like the direct rays of the sun. So that is an excuse, you may call it, so that he can give me some activity to hold and make me feel that I am of great help to him. That's how the mind is, Victor. He gives us opportunities to serve him and make us feel that we are of great help to him, you see. But on the contrary, it's an encumbrance. He can easily hold his umbrella and walk fast, you see. So I was all the time on the watch, and as soon as he would come, I would take him down, and I go up. So one day, while I'm taking him up there, he stops halfway. He says, "Well, how are you?" I said, "I'm fine, Baba." "Do you eat?" He says, "Yes, I eat." "Do you eat full? Stomach full?" I said, "Yes, Baba, I'm satisfied." He says, "Well, how is your health?" I said, "I'm well." "Do you get good sleep?" I said, "Yes, Baba, I get good sleep." "Yeah. Feel at home, eat well, work well, sleep well." "What do you do after you leave me there? What do you do?" "I go back to the Mandali." "And what do you do then?" "I just sit down because I was a newcomer and I hear what they say." "What are they saying?" "I don't understand, Baba, what they talk. Their language is quite different, you know." So, what is the language? Don't you understand? I said, "Yeah, I get the words, but the topic of the time is something to do with circles. There are circles there. And there is the discussion who is in which circle and what circle and all that. I don't know what they talk. In geometry I learnt about circle, no doubt. No, he said, don't you know what a circle is?" I said, "Yes, in geometry I learned something about circle and all that. But this is a quite different circle thing that they are talking about. There are 12 circles and this and that. You know. I don't follow. And there are people inside the circle. I don't know what it is all about. I never knew what God perfect master is, or what is the meaning of being with him also I didn't know. Who he is I didn't know. He just called me and I went. You follow? I didn't know the import of being with him and following him and all that sort of thing. I didn't know anything about it. So there was no question about spirituality in my mind. And maybe that was to my credit, I should say. So he says, "Look, you hear all what they say. Don't you segregate yourself. Be there, yeah. But if you don't follow, you have got 2 years now." I said, "Yes." So he said, "Listen to this through this year and let it pass by the other year. Don't worry about all that circle business, you see." I said, "All right." And that's how one he said. And then one day, the story which I am trying to tell you is this. It's a very touching one. So just as now, more days are passing by. So one day in the evening now, I have to take him back up the hill. He has come as far as the Dhuni site. You know where the Dhuni is? Yeah, the platform. Formerly there was no platform. There was just a pit in the earth at that spot itself. So from the Mandali Hall, he had come walk the distance, and he is at the Dhuni now. And Padri came from there is that pumping house there near the well. You see, that was his workshop there. I don't know whether it's still there or not. So he came from there as a send-off to Baba. And Pendu was the manager, this old man who's sitting there. He was the manager of the whole show there. So he came discussing something about the next day program and this and that, and all that was there. And he was using the board all the time and telling him something. While walking also they used to do that. Just as we talk, while walking. So also with his silence he would dictate and they would understand. So while he stopped at the Dhuni site because Padri came and joined. And so Baba remembered that Padri must also know that. So he started telling Padri and Pendu and all that. And I was just watching there, holding the umbrella. There was no need for the umbrella to be held up now because it's sunset. But you can see the light is there, dusk time. So just as he was dictating, he looked up there and he saw a man going up the hill. Man. And for a man to go up the hill, it was taboo because all the women lived up. Nobody would go there. Nobody can go beyond the gate because there were boards put there. Prohibited area. All the women lived on the top of the hill. All the men lived at the bottom of the hill. So Baba looked from the board and he looked very grim, you see, and he says, "Who is that person going? He is telling me." So I said, "I don't know." So he says, "Go, run up there and give him a tight slap and drag him down here. Does he not know that no man has to go up the hill?" So, that's wonderful. That's manliness, you see. Oh, I was young at that time. To give a slap, man, that's my job, spirituality is not my job. So I rushed, you see, and because he was halfway and he would have easily entered the room. So he was halfway. So I rushed there, and as he was about to enter the gate, I caught hold of his arm. and gave him such a tight slap. He was stunned, you see. He says, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" He says, "I have come for Meher Baba's darshan." "Is this the way to come for darshan? Come on, get down." So I dragged him down, you see, and holding his hand tight, and I was so puffed up that I executed something that Baba wanted me to do. And I came, and I brought him down as a prisoner. And Baba was still there, dictating. So I brought him down, and I said, "Baba, he was going up for your darshan." Baba said, and I thought that, well, Baba would praise me for bringing him and all that. And what do I see? The reward of all that huff, you see, and puff that I was, what was it? Baba says, Baba says to him, when I said that he was going for the darshan, he says, "You are going for your darshan. How blessed you are." This is the sign for blessed. How blessed you are that you came for the darshan of the Lord and you are humiliated by this man. It is not in the lot of everybody. How blessed you are that you come for my darshan and you are humiliated. There is no greater reward than that. And come. And he embraced him and kissed him and loved him and all that. And he was so happy. He was happy and I was humiliated. And I thought that I did a good job. So this is what I learned. I remember now, still I remember, when in our services to him, daily services, in our remembrance of him, in our being with him throughout my life, there were umpteen occasions where we had to face humiliation. And each time when I felt humiliated, that figure was there. How blessed one is when one is humiliated in his cause. So that carried me throughout the period of my dedicated life with him. It was so good an example. But at that time it was a bitter pill for me to swallow. Yeah. Okay. Would you all want to go for your lunch now? Francis, yes, for your lunch.
Lunchtime.
Yes.
Why don't you have a rest table?
Would go for lunch and then come back.
Yeah. Your August presence is even at the table.
Right, yeah.
शर्मा जी जाके खाना लाए ना आपने कुछ नहीं लाए
कर दिया सर
हाँ?
सवेरे वो नाश्ता कर लिया था वो इसको मना कर दिया
So you are not going for lunch? Okay, then you all can sit down, go for lunch at 1:30. Elizabeth, you are feeling hungry, then you go for lunch. Those who feel hungry, then go for lunch. Those who want to, go for lunch. Finish it off and come back soon. Go, Victor.
आप तो कुछ ले लें
No, I don't eat lunch.
चाय वगैरह
Yeah. Go. I will take them if you want to. Take them to Mera also, or they want to have their lunch and out. Huh? She's not out. No.
No, sit down again.
But why don't you go for your lunch and finish up? Paul, go and have your lunch.
If you tell another story like that, I'm going to miss out.
Oh, what is there in that? You have heard all that, you see.
No, that wasn't.
Okay, so what are the... another thing that I want you to know is that we were with him. As I told you, you have heard what I mentioned there in that letter also. We were with him, he allowed us to be with him. We say that when I say that I was with him, it is impossible for me to be with him unless and until he wants it that way. because nobody can be with him. That I have seen it 1,000 times in my life with him. On our own, if we want to, if we even long for it, and if he doesn't want it, we cannot be with him. There are so many instances about it, about this. Only when he wants us to be with him, he keeps us with him. Otherwise, somehow or other, it so happens, it's like the withered leaf. It just gets out of the tree and floats out. Finish. That's all. Whatever it be. So time and again I noticed that. So when I was with him, that he made it possible for me to be with him, mind would always interrogate, mind would feel, because at that time there was no conviction. There was that faith that we are following some good person, you see, a kindly one, lovable, loving one. And so on. And he used to say that I am this and I am that, and mind would time and again recoil and say, is he that? Is he really that? Okay, then go. So is he that? So he would take us out. Of course, there are people who believed in him, who loved in him. They would always testify it, you see. And my attitude was such that Baba also helped to fire my attitude. Instead of cooling it down or trying to bring conviction and belief in me and all that, he'd say, oh, this man will never believe what I say. He will never believe. He'll tell the other elders, you see. And those elders will look at me with, says, why do you do that? Don't you believe what he says? So, but I have nothing to do with belief, I would say. What is there in that to believe? He says, I have accepted what it is. I have nothing to say on this score. So that's how Baba would always stoke fire, you see, into my heart as well as others, and keep me always independent about belief and conviction and all that sort of thing. It has nothing to do with me or Baba. In that sense it was. He took me that. Sit down here. Why not be comfortable? So then what happened is that all of a sudden we'll come across an episode in our life. Following him, one thing good, that in spite of my being a rebel, you may call it, in his court, not outwardly but inwardly, a black sheep, he kept me close to him. That is his compassion. So time and again when I would go out, I would notice that all of a sudden a stranger would come and would pay obeisance to him. Total stranger. And he would point to us, 3 or 4 who would be there on our tours. He says, you have no idea how blessed you people are. You are living with him. Dhanya. What is the word for dhanya? Dhanya. Yeah, but in English, there's no word. Blessed. Blessed you people are. Don't leave him at all. You have no idea who he is. So, my mind will register that. And we feel happy about it, that at least, there is one surety that some stranger has come and told us. Because all others are there who are there, you see. They are there, they are bound to say something about it. But somebody has said that. But that would be a fleeting moment of confidence, comfort, that I am where I should be. That was all. After a few minutes, you see, it's all disappearing. Time and again I would come across that. And Wayfarers is full of all these, you see, who testified who he is. The witnesses, the ones who bear witness to his divinity. Total strangers, total people would call them mad on the streets or on the garbage heaps, you see, they would be seated. And all of a sudden they would raise themselves up in adoration and glorification, glorifying the Lord, approaching him. And they would fall prostrate, or they would say, sing out, or they would speak out loudly in glorifying God, you see, that is him. And that would make me wonderstruck, you see. How do they know who he is? How can they know? So that's how all the time my mind also was impressed by that. But what happened is that time and again, in spite of all these impressions that were gathered, in spite of the assurances that they gave about his divinity, my mind, stupid, silly mind, would never accept anything of that sort. And would immediately, after a day or two, it would all slip off. Whatever I had heard from a person here, I heard from a different town, another town in the north, in the south, and anywhere, all over these things, it is his compassion that Baba allowed me to be by his side, you see, that's how it is. So I had gathered all these things. The mind is impressed all the time, but same time the impressions come to the surface. Is he that? What is it? Is he that? Is he that? Then what would happen was Baba would go out, you see. After that phase was over, there was another phase in his ministry that, there is a crowd of tens of thousands of people. And he chose me to be the one to speak out on the public address system, his interpretations. So when I would speak out, he says, I had to speak out with force, isn't it? Otherwise, how is it possible? Because of his facial expressions and gestures, I'll say that. Meher Baba says that he is the same ancient one come in our midst as man amongst men. And I am saying this. And as soon as I finish, my mind would recoil. Is he that? You see, people think that, well, my God, he's a person, you see, who is saying that, and he must be so close to Baba. But little do people know that what was happening in my mind, time and again, mind would recoil. A thud would come there. He would say, I am the highest of the high. I am on all levels. I am on the level where you are. I prostrate before your love for me because I am love. Is it that? I would say that on the mic, and again the mind would say that. So it went on. What will you say to this, his compassion, that in spite of it all, he kept me, he being the all-knowing. I learnt later on that he was really all-knowing. Formally it was what he said, that he was all-knowing. Then I came to know that he's really all-knowing. But a person who is really all-knowing, would anybody allow like that? A rebel to be by his side and to be so close to him? Unless he exercises infinite compassion. Unless there is a different plan or something that I don't know. But I felt it that when I realized it, that it was his infinite compassion. So, not only that he kept me by his side, but he got me closer and closer to him. And the closeness to him was this, that time came, with the passage of years, a time came when he would meet the public, people would come to him, and they would want to have private interviews. And his silence was such that it needed an interpreter. And private interviews means private interviews. But then Baba would say that he has to interpret. So he has to be, the rebel is there by his side to interpret, you see. And what I learned from that, of course it's all, Baba used to tell me, never remember anything, just forget about it all. Because it was private, personal interviews. So at that time, my mind was impressed. He's not just an ordinary man who expresses love. He is something very extraordinary, you see. He's an extraordinary person. That's how my mind became stable to accepting him as an extraordinary person. But yet again there would be, these lapses would be there. But when I came closer and closer and saw, he manifested his attributes of great compassion, great charity, while in these, what you call, private and personal interviews and all, that I gained first-hand information about his attributes, of how infinitely compassionate he is, how infinitely charitable he is, in forgiving, in accepting others, howsoever they be, and all that. I said, no, this is not an extraordinary exhibit. This is an exhibit not of extraordinary personality, but he must be God, because it's the attributes of God that are being exhibited here. So that's how eventually my stubborn, stupid mind accepted him as one who says he is. Through his attributes, through the attributes of God. Otherwise it was not possible. No amount of my being with him or anything of the sort. But it is his compassion which he exercised and allowed me to be close to him. And these attributes I saw manifested there. You might ask me now, give me instances of the attributes. What was it? Why? What do you mean by his infinite compassion? What do you mean by his infinite charity and all that? So, but my tongue is tied.
But your narration of the events in the process or in the gradual course in the life to come is very fine and very much
in the
valuable to us. So in the same way you kindly...
You see, the thing is that well, we'll keep in store for those people also. Let them hear also about it afterwards. But what I want you to know is one thing is that when he began, naturally from 1938 I came in close contact with him because he called me in 1938. So from 1938 onwards, what I noticed was, being a man who observed, for 30 years I was observing him. Although I was considered to be his close disciple and this and that and whatever the world may call it, you see. It's all nothing but gibberish, you know. So I was...
For about an hour and a half until Baba finished his food. And then once they finished their food and all, Baba, I don't know exactly what happened, but that man left. He said his goodbyes or whatever, and left, and watched Baba and all go down into India. The train pulled off and they left. And he said that from that day until this day that he had come to the tomb, he had never had any contact with Baba again in his life. Because at that time, Baba wasn't permanently established anywhere. He was wandering with the Mandali around. And so he had no address. I mean, he had nothing. He never even thought to ask for an address or anything. And he had no contact with Baba at all. And when what happened was, after all these years, he came to Ahmednagar for a business reason. He didn't know that Baba dropped his body. He didn't know that he was ever stationed in Ahmednagar. He didn't know anything like this. But he'd come to Ahmednagar on business. And he met one of these men that he came with. They were his business associates. And they said to him, they had a little free time, and they said, well, maybe we could see some sights today. And he said, okay, well, what's there to see?